All right, welcome everyone back to the Black Brain Trust. Uh, Tonight is Geopolitics, episode 84. I'm here with my co-facilitator, Lionel. What's going
Hello,
on, brother?
hello everyone. I'm good. How you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. Let's fire this off. Anybody wants to follow? I believe that the docket is below the video in the description. If not, we will actually link it in the chat. So first article on the docket is actually from RT. Um, it's a video based on minesweeping in for the Russian military. It's called the LISFA, a nuclear escort for the Russian military in the inside of Russia itself. So this vehicle has all these capabilities, such as UHF, which stands for ultra high frequency, and it also has three armored compartments used for demining. If you look on the front, let me actually play the video. If you look on the front of the vehicle, you see this extension coming out that is used to clear other tripwire based mines. As you can see from this video right here, that there's an explosion. That guards this intercontinental ballistic missile, which is the ICBM. I don't know. What's your initial thoughts on this?
All right, and to give people a little bit more backdrop on why the LISTVA, I think that's how they pronounced it, why they made it was to protect the intercontinental ballistic missile. Um, the in the beginning, decades ago, these ballistic missiles were stationary, meaning they were fired from silos in specific sites. They were immobile. Now Russia put them on trucks, as you can see in the video, and mobilized them, which means they were able to shoot them from anywhere, including the forest, anywhere where they could not be seen by satellites. In order to do that, you need a convoy to protect them. You can't just drive around with this. People will try to steal it, blow it up to prevent you from shooting it off. So you need a convoy front and back to protect it. Now, when you're in this convoy, what the enemies would do is snipe off the first vehicle, snipe off the last vehicle, and try to take over the convoy because normally the first and last vehicles are the tough guys. IEDs are IEDs are known to be in the wars now that are going on in the Middle East. Um, what they are are buried in the dirt, and what ID is to improve, not improve. I say improve, improvised explosive device, meaning anything can be in this ID, forks, shrapnel, anything that will cause bodily harm once blown up. They're buried in the dirt, close to in fields, close to roads. So when cars go past them, cell phone device, some type of radio frequency can set them off. Uh, Somebody can blow them up from a distance. So what these things do, the like Mike said, they have an extension where they detect these IEDs, and the ultra high radio frequency will blow them up before the convoy. Say again.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay. Before the convoy gets to them, to prevent it from disrupting the convoy, blowing up any needed supplies, and it's really ingenious. I know that the guy in the video at one point said the U.S. has something like this, but it's ingenious because you have IEDs. You know they're close to the road. You know once you roll over them, they're going to blow up. They're going to damage something. So why not blow them up before you even get to them? And it's a common sense thing. And now you see Russia really taking this common sense approach and really applying it to use case and protecting not only these intercontinental ballistic missiles, but this truck itself can be used. Well, not specifically this truck, but the technology also can be used in other areas of the world to protect convoys.
Right. And the antenna on top is actually a microwave antenna. So
Mm-hmm.
UHF stands for ultra high frequency. Um, what that antenna does, and because it's curved, it focuses its microwave beam at the path where they think that the IED or that the convoy is going to travel past. Now, it's so powerful that they have to wear special suits, and in these special suits, it protects them from the microwave radiation, um, or the microwave processing, and that microwave transmission actually disrupts all of the IEDs that are planted there. Now, you need this vehicle to actually protect this intercontinental ballistic missile, this ICBM, because if there is an IED there and it takes out that ICBM, that reduces Russia's time to respond to a potential threat. So anything that can, put a speed bump inside Russia's response capabilities is what they're trying to prevent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they in the beginning of the video they say they, even though you were seeing these explosions in the forest, in the snowy forest, they were not, they would not be able to walk beside this thing because it would be too dangerous. They would have to be insulated inside the vehicle, which the different compartments are they show where the door to the back compartment is insulated with copper to prevent these frequencies from harming a human. And the guy put on this blue protective suit, which the operator of this shield of this device operates and focuses the beams on different parts where they think an IED is, and he needs to be shielded because he needs to be operating it. My only question was the driver. I didn't see the driver wearing the same blue suit, or if the white suit he was wearing is the same thing with different colors. Now,
Yeah.
I, now I would say in the Navy, well, on the submarine, they had us wear something on our belt to keep track of our keep track of our exposure to nuclear activity. We couldn't, obviously, you don't want to be exposed to too much, but they kept track
Like a
of
Geiger
our,
counter.
right, and it's a little device you put in your belt. It's really small, and made sure you were well within the accepted range. I say that to say, I wonder if they're doing the same. Well, this guy can't. If you're in a war, a legitimate war, or you're operating this thing at where you have to go through long distances, um, people who operate this machinery, they have to take time off because they can't be exposed to this type of ongoing activity for a very long time, for months and months, or weeks on end, or days, I mean, really days on end.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point to make as well.
But it's impressive, like I've been saying, with all of the machinery that we've been going over. It's ingenious. It's very much needed, not just to protect these um, missiles, but just in a war period. You have people that are out there gonna that are going to that that want to put speed bumps or destroy your equipment with these IEDs or explosive devices. So you have a device that can detect it and dispose of it. That's something needed. That's something advantageous to your um your military.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Americans don't have anything close to this, right? So they have the ability to detect mines, but not actually destroy them before they even reach the target itself. So that's why in Iraq and Afghanistan, you see a lot of injuries to U.S. military and NATO officers because they are they don't have an alternative way that the Russians have to detonate the equipment before they even touch it. So
Hmm.
you see sometimes you have I've heard about people doing tours in Iraq where they'll use these bomb sniffing dogs, and the dog finds the bomb. He sits on the bomb, but then he can't move because once he moves, it detonates, and you're pretty much losing dogs left and right. So they didn't have a true mechanized device to actually take out these IEDs.
They're still using dogs, and the Russians are using technical equipment, real military grade equipment. That's they can't continue to use dogs or humans, to get rid of these mines. You have to upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think at some point, I mean, the Russians obviously are thinking ahead, right,
Hmm.
in case they have to actually get into a conflict. Whereas the United States has always been in conflict, but they just don't. They figure that human life is expendable. So
Yeah, and how this thing is able to detonate the explosives is each explosive uses a radio frequency, a specific radio signal, its own frequency to detonate. So just how he was explaining it in the video is similar to you using your key fob to lock and unlock your vehicle. It uses a specific frequency. So what it does is hones the UHF, the ultra high frequency, to that specific area where they think the bomb is. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically um, like what do they call it? When you are trying to crack someone's password, you it's
brute
a
force.
phrase. Yeah, they just brute force the signal. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Brute force.
Right, 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 because the ultra high frequency actually covers many other bands as well because they have four antennas on there that are mapped to cellular channels. So your GSM and your CDMA, all those channels are covered. So in the United States, we have Verizon and Sprint on CDMA, and T-Mobile and AT&T are on GSM. So outside of the country, you have those same channels of frequency, for communications, and that's what they're tracking.
Yeah. So that's how they're able to detonate these IEDs and explosives pretty quickly. Yeah, that's all I got.
Hmm. I also think the design of the vehicle is pretty genius too. It looks like an SUV, but it's actually fully, pretty armored up.
Yeah, yeah, it's heavily armored.
Like a, yeah, it's like a tank. It's
Yeah,
like a tank. It's like a 6x6 tank.
that's what it reminds you of is like you said, it looks like a tank, but they just put they just outfitted it with they just outfitted it to be what it is now. It has three separate compartments, like you said. The compartments are like a submarine. If people, not too many people are familiar with a submarine, the submarine is compartmentalized, meaning if it's two compartments, forward and aft. If the forward part of the submarine is compromised and filled with water, then the bulkhead, which is in the middle of the submarine, is closed to keep the water from back aft, and you're still able to um, bring the submarine up to surface, and vice and other way around. So what he's saying is the three people that are in this vehicle, one person is driving, one person operating the system, and the nerd, the third person who uses metal detector device is in the back. So they're compartmentalized. It's basically three different sections of this tank.
Right, and even the minesweeper himself, who's out, as you see in the video right now, he has equipment to detonate, to find and detonate any bombs that may be not detectable by the vehicle itself. And he has a communications radio that goes back to the truck that acts as a operations base to determine whether or not what cause of action that they should take.
Hmm. Yeah, it's impressive. It's a good resource, a great resource.
We'll go to the next video. Um,
Mhm.
this one is called the refueler. Um, the Russians have a air tanker that can refuel multiple jets at a time. Uh, just about everything that they built in their fleet is actually refuelable by this air tanker.
Yeah,
I know you have
yeah,
anything you want to add to it?
yeah. Refueling in midair isn't, of course, not nothing new. Um, a lot of your major militaries have the capability of doing that, but as the video, if who looking at this, you're able to look at the video. They mentioned in the video a lot of militaries are steering away from refueling the midair, even though they still have it, because what they're doing is creating jets and um, planes that can engines, putting engines in them, what they can last longer. But refueling is still needed. It is still a part of your military. Um, what I was impressed was the tonnage of weight and fuel it's able to bring with it. It's able to refuel three jets at a time. That may sound once you're looking at the videos and you see these people pulling up, for lack of a better term, pulling up to the the bigger planes to refuel. They make it look easier, but it's not at all easy. They had a simulation where um, you go through it and you simulate pulling up to get refueled. It's not easy at all. It's very finicky. It's very not finicky, but it's very sensitive. So it takes these pilots a long time to be proficient enough to even do this. But to have, by with saying that, to have the capabilities, not only the capabilities to refuel three jets at once, but three jets flying behind a bigger plane at once to be refueled, taking on the turbulence, taking on the variables to sit there to be refueled. And not only the three planes in the back, but the one person that's flying tanker to sit there and keep the tanker straight with all the turbulence and so forth. It takes skill. You're not going to come off the street and do this. It takes a lot of skill.
And what's actually interesting is that it's really just a cargo jet with with these tanks built inside of it. I think there's three tanks in there. One tank can actually fill up, half half a
Half a
tank
jet.
can actually fill up can fill up a whole jet.
Hmm. One tank, two jets. Right, right, right.
Right, right. And then you factor in that they have these Russian Bears, these big propeller based turboprop based bombers that need to be refueled as well. I think they only need to be refueled even once before they can make it around the world on one
Mm,
single tank. But the point of the matter is here is that Russia's capabilities, airlift capabilities, is actually pretty astounding for a country that's supposed to be weak and isolated from the rest of the world. When they have these, they have all of their planes covered, from the MiG 21 to the MiG 23, all the way down to the Su-35, even the I think the new Su-57 can actually all be refueled by this air tanker. Now, what I also found interesting was that they designed their MiGs and their Sukhois to actually
yeah,
be able to refuel another plane of similar characteristics.
right.
So
That
if you
that
have
yeah,
excess fuel, then you can actually refuel another plane. That's to me. I don't know if the United States even does something like this,
that can come in handy, especially on a long mission.
or even if the for whatever reason, if there's a malfunction on the plane, on one plane, you can actually drop fuel to your partner and then take off back to base.
Hmm. That's that comes in really handy. Now, what interests me with the video was they were saying no sloshing, um, how the gas they have this foam they put this foam material in the tanks that soaks up the fuel, and that is how they I don't know if commercial airliners or the U.S. any of the military, but specifically talking about them, that's how they get away with no sloshing in the tanks. So once the fuel is extracted from this foam material to take the fuel out to fill up whatever jets and the fuel it's multifunctional. So if it takes a bullet to try to basically blow up the tanks, they won't blow up because of this foam acts like a fire retardant some sorts.
Right. There's no air, to create an explosion. Then even if it does get shot, it doesn't mean anything
Right.
because it's not going to penetrate it either. It's actually I think it's uh, I think it's bulletproof up to 50 caliber, if I remember correctly, which is a lot. If anybody knows what a 50 cal does, 50 caliber is a pretty strong round. So that usually pierces a lot of things. But if it can't pierce that, then that tells you the amount of ingenuity that went into this, and a lot of thought that went into all of this.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Nice design. Um, they're not letting go to air fueling in midair, able to fuel three jets at a time. Like we mentioned, one a half a tank can fuel one jet, and it's 2 tanks. So that's what, wait, 244 jets?
That's a whole squad. That's basically what it's designed for, is to fill up a
Yeah.
squad.
And the tanker itself can stay in the air for 6 hours.
This is actually the video that we're part of the video that we're referring to, where 2 MiG fighter jets could actually refill each other. These are MiG-31s.
Hmm. Now, what they said is, go ahead.
Now, I was going to say that's absolutely ingenious.
Yeah, yeah. Now that's a good definition of a genius. Um,
Mhm.
Now what they said is the fighter jet doesn't have like a spare tank or anything. They only thing it does is takes its fuel, its own fuel, and just give it to whoever needs the fuel. No other design. They don't need any other design changes other than that, other than the fueling spout. It's pretty, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice, man.
And it's actually being upgraded, so it's the plane that we see in the video, the air tanker that we see in the video is actually an older version, and a new version is on its way out as we speak. So it's going to have more capabilities, and that's a whole entire department to the Air Force in itself. Like, just refueling. That's an area that people don't really think about. A lot of logistics goes into the military.
Right. And the foam is polyurethane. The foam is polyurethane. And the newer tankers that you like you mentioned they're working on, they double as cargo, um, car, cargo carrier.
Right.
I'm it makes me wonder, they showing all this, what other are they showing too much? Or if they're showing all this, what other things they're not showing.
They're
Mm,
showing you what they want you to see, and not what they want you to know. Because if you remember the last video that we watched, the LISPA, they said they had to use a smoke screen to actually um, cloud up the area
mm-hmm.
to ensure that you don't see a lot of their technology and a lot of their advancements.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to the next article. So this one is from CNBC. Um, a never before seen Russian missile is identified as an anti-satellite weapon and will be ready for warfare by 2022. A mysterious missile photographed last month on a Russian jet is believed to be a mock-up of an anti-satellite weapon. Three sources with direct knowledge of U.S. intelligence reports say the Russian anti-satellite weapon, which is attached to a space launch vehicle, is expected to target communication and imagery satellites in low Earth orbit, or LEO, according to one source who spoke on the condition of the anonymity. The weapon is expected to join Moscow's arsenal by 2022. I think we have been talking about this in the past. Just a picture of this vehicle. It's a MiG-31. For anybody looking at this, we have talked about this in the past about space wars. Trump talked
Mm-hmm.
about creating a space alliance, a space force. Russia calls their air force the aerospace forces. So there's a lot to be learned just from this, even just from the image, not even just from the article itself. you get maybe a squad of these MiG-31s with these anti anti satellite missiles on board, and you got a big problem on your hands because they've already mapped out your missiles according to Putin. He said this in March of this year that all U.S. satellites have been mapped out,
Hmm.
including the military, and that they have the capabilities of taking these missiles, taking these satellites down with either ICBMs or hypersonic missiles, or these MiG-31s carrying these missiles up, these satellite missiles up. So
Yeah.
the only way to defend against something like that is to is to predict that the these MiG fighter jets actually have them on board, because you can't really tell from the ground whether or not a MiG fighter jet is actually carrying a anti satellite missile on board, especially when it's 35, 40,000 feet up in the sky. You don't know what what
Right. Right.
that plane is carrying.
Right. You can barely see it,
Yeah, it's completely concealed.
Now, to give, like the article said, to give people reference of low Earth orbit, the International Space Station and the Hubble telescope is in low Earth orbit. Uh, Shooting your communication lines down is serious business. That you need communications line. Um, Shooting the satellites down, communication lines. That you're basically flying dark. You don't know what's going on. You can't communicate with your aircraft carriers, your submarines, your army and the Marines that are down on the ground. Um, you would be fighting a different type of war with someone that has full communication capabilities. So that will leave you seriously handicapped. This is a strategic, it's a strategic move to cut another nation's supply chain and communications, because that leaves them weaker. It leaves them open for attacks. It leaves them open for surprise attacks. They can't do proper reconnaissance to see what the other or see what the enemy is moving, where they're going, what they're up to, what changes they're doing. So it leaves them open. So you may look at this and say, well, okay, they have a missile that can shoot down a satellite. Um, this is what I just said is just a little part of the consequences of have your satellite shot down. You can't communicate with your other branches, the people that's already out in the field, and you can't keep tabs on the enemy. Just something that small can almost cripple your military. You'll still be fighting a war. It's just the communications will be slow. You can't get people to the right um, areas. um, so yeah, still on.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
still on. Yeah, yeah, anti satellite warfare is definitely the new frontier. I would say the United States probably has 1,000 satellites up there. Um, one third are probably commercial. The other third is used for scientific research, and the other third is all military. So
hmm
if they know every satellite that's there, they already mapped it out. Then it's only a matter of taking out, your main reconnaissance satellites. In your communication as well, right? So your SATCOM phones that U.S. military uses, take that out. Um, your reconnaissance satellites, take those out. I don't know what the capacity of the Russian aerospace forces MiG-31 fleet is, but I would assume that they have a pretty substantial amount of these MiG-31s ready to be used to take out these satellites. Now, what I find interesting is that they would use MiG-31s, but they wouldn't use, those Tupolovs, the Russian stealth bombers. That's pretty interesting too.
You never
They
know. They
maybe they
may,
have something up their sleeve.
yeah, maybe they're working on those in the future, or maybe that's something that they're not telling you. But
Right.
aren't the MiG-31s the planes that can go near the upper part of the stratosphere?
Yes, those are their basically interspace fighter
Yeah,
jets.
yeah, interspace fighter jets.
But they going, but according to the photo here, the image here, it only shows one, right? It only shows one missile per fighter jet. What I was mentioning before is about the Tupolovs, their big strategic bombers. Wouldn't it make more sense to put, one, two, three, four of these anti-satellite missiles on your stealth bombers rather than to use one MiG-31? It just seems interesting that they would use that more
Yeah,
than anything else. But I guess it makes sense if you're trying to sneak it off.
they. I was To answer that. I would say they were probably, like you said, trying to sneak it off to see if it'll work because they're testing it out. It's not fully tested, so they're trying to pass it off as a regular missile. But if it's fully tested, then yeah, they're gonna put it. They they they're gonna load that MiG-31 out with all with these type of missiles if they're gonna aim to be shooting down satellites. They're not gonna fly just one missile out, one anti-satellite missile out. Then okay, we missed by a foot. Okay, come back and put nah. Okay, shoot the second one, shoot the third, shoot the fourth one. Okay, you miss. Okay, you fire the other plane that's in the group. You shoot whatever satellites down.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're gonna load that out.
Yeah, I can only imagine that their submarines probably also have these. They're probably working on having their submarines have these capabilities as well.
I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
I think I think one of the submarines actually carries 16 ballistic missiles on there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
16 silos.
Mhm. Mhm. Because there was a video not too long ago where they showed it shooting off four uh
Right.
in a test.
Yeah, four is enough to destroy a whole country. So
Yeah. So 16 can do some damage, and that's one submarine.
hmm we get to the next article. This one is from Al Jazeera. Leaders of Turkey, Russia, France, and Germany hold Syria talks. Istanbul summit addresses numerous issues, including Idlib demilitarized zone, constitutional reform, and refugees. This is from October 27th. There was a four-way summit on Syria has ended with no major breakthrough, even as leaders of Turkey, Russia, Germany, and France agreed that a fragile ceasefire in Idlib should be preserved, and said a committee tasked with drafting the war-torn country's new constitution needs to convene by the end of the year. So, um, you have two NATO power or three NATO powers meeting with Russia. Uh, you have Germany, you have France, you have Turkey, three NATO powers, and then you have Russia, who's the outlier or the security guarantor of Syria. Now, what's absent from here is no Syrian delegation, nor Iranian delegation. The lack of Syrian representation and lack of Iranian delegation um, makes you wonder about the fragility of this whole entire summit. Because if the idea is for constitutional reform, then only Syria can discuss their
Mm,
constitution to be reformed. You can't discuss that with somebody like Turkey, and you can't discuss that with Germany and France. I don't see how an outsider can determine what goes on inside somebody else's house.
right, right. And it's it's a joke. Why would you even why would you even have the type of summit unless you was doing it for the cameras? Because okay, Russia is on the side of President Bashir Assad, right?
Correct, the security guarantor.
But you have factions in Syria that want Bashir Assad out of office because he committed murder on millions of um, Syrian, not millions of Syrian um, citizens, and he caused refugee status to a lot of other Syrian citizens, right?
Say that one more time.
Well, you have factions in Syria that want Bashir Assad out of office because he killed a lot of people and he displaced a lot of people.
That's the assumption, right? They're holding him responsible because he's the he's the president. But
Okay.
what about the United States, right? What if somebody said, what if Russia and China decided to have a delegation in Jamaica to discuss the killing of black men inside the United States by U.S. police officers? You think the United States would be okay with that? I don't think so.
Huh. And then you have Turkey that is basically in the north, what's that, the northwest part of Syria, because they share border. Well, yeah, they do share border. So they trying to quell the whoever from come across the borders. Then you have France that okay, what no, they're part of NATO, so they have NATO office people in Syria. And then who else? You had Germany, yeah, Germany. So you get all these people with different interests concerning the country that didn't have any representation in this summit. It's a joke.
Right. Right. And the thing is, I think Germany and France are there because they take on the most of the refugees. The refugees go through Europe and they stop in France and they stop at Germany as their final destination. So that's probably why France and Germany wants to be stakeholders in this because they have to deal with the refugee output.
Mm,
And Germany has given billions of dollars to Turkey to manage the refugees from flowing into Europe, and Turkey hasn't done very much um, in terms of safeguarding a lot of these refugees. They have, I think, the majority of the refugees out of Syria. I think something like 3 million on their borders. Um, my thing is, again, going back to the constitutional reform, I think it's only in I think it's only in Syria's interest to reform their constitution. But who would they be reforming it for? The Syrian
right.
people or the outside vultures sitting inside Istanbul?
And if they reform for the outside forces, that's just going to prolong the war because people are not going to like it.
It has to be voted on by the people, which is what the Constitution is for, right? The Constitution can't just be changed just because somebody else on the outside doesn't like it. I mean, can anybody change the Constitution of the United States from, the
Mm,
right to bear arms with the Second Amendment, or and say that it needs to be reformed before we can start doing business with the United States in terms of trading oil, using the U.S. dollar? No one would ever do anything like that. So you're putting pressure on Assad to leave, and the thing is, he already won the war. The war's over now.
mhm.
You have a few skirmishes going, in the north, but that's the extent of it. But I wouldn't reform any constitutions, and I'm not having any new elections either. I mean, who's going to run against Assad at this point?
Nah, nobody. Yeah, yeah,
Suicide mission.
yeah. Yeah, they just wasted time.
Hmm. They basically lopped off a piece of the country to themselves. You know, a demilitarized zone means that um, there's no activity going on that's in breach of security. And what it seems like to me that Turkey occupying Syria and in the DMZ means that there is a possibility for hostility if you got tanks on their turf.
Yeah. This, I mean, just the notion of you're gonna create or change a constitution for a nation. Like, come on, really?
Mhm. Right. Right. Then
How
the thing about the
arrogant are you?
Constitution is that right, and the thing is the Constitution says that it cannot be. You can't create a new country inside Syria. Like you can't annex or have a right. You can't annex pieces of the country. You can't lop off pieces of the country and create a new country for yourself that and have it recognized by the Syrian government. That's not going to happen. So that's what the Kurds want. So
Right. I
if
was
the
just
United
about to
States
say
has
that.
been
Yeah.
pushing for right, the United States has been pushing for the Kurds to have this autonomy inside Syria by lopping off a piece of the country because they've already built military bases inside Syria, 13 of them. One of them is big enough to take on a C-130 Hercules airplane. So
Mm. Yeah, I don't see. They just waste their time.
well, maybe that's what they're trying to do is buy time in
That's a
order
good point.
to start the initiative. Start the initiative to actually roll in with their tanks and just take out Damascus altogether. Because I
That's a
don't
good.
they put the S-300 system in there, right? So the S-300 system is officially installed. All the Syrian air defense forces have been trained to use them. So you're not going to attack them from the air because you're afraid of being shot down. Nobody wants to lose a multi-million-dollar F-35 fighter jet. So your only other recourse would be to go in there with tanks and just roll in 100%. Um, if in a blitzkrieg,
Hmm.
which is quite possible. You could probably roll in there with about 60 plus tanks and just roll right into Damascus. Now, how many of those tanks would survive? I don't know, but that's a possibility. You don't have to worry about being shot down by a S-300 air defense surface to air missile system.
Okay, now who are you saying would do that?
United States,
Okay, okay, and
NATO,
and
NATO.
and NATO is occupying the northeastern part, some northeastern regions of Syria.
NATO is not. Turkey is. So Turkey wouldn't represent NATO as it stands, but there are no NATO badges on Turkey. It's the Turkish
Okay,
um, armed forces, the TAF. Now, if it
okay.
was NATO, I think what Russia is saying is that if it comes down to that, then we're going in too, right? So
Hmm. We'll see, man. I think this was like like you said, maybe they buying time. That's the best thing can come out of here, because what they talking about is not, that's not good. That's not going to come to fruition because the Syrian people have to vote on, the Constitution, and it's the Syrian people that's going to decide the Constitution, not for other nations. That has a stakeholder because they are taking on some refugees, albeit millions of refugees. It has to be the Syrian people that have to vote on this constitution, and so I would agree with you. The best thing that come out of this is bought time to, what are they using with their bought time? We'll see. Um, yeah.
yeah, we'll 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 see in the next article.
Hmm.
This one is from Press TV. Turkey to launch larger operations in northern Syria. Erdogan. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says Ankara will soon launch larger operations east of the Euphrates River in northern Syria, where it has been confronting U.S.-backed Kurdish militants. So this is interesting, right? We just read an article about peace talks inside Turkey, and now you're pointing guns at somebody. You need to make up your mind on which side you're going to be on and which position you're going to take. Turkey is basically saying that everybody who's Kurdish inside Syria is PKK. PKK being the Kurdish People's Workers Party, and saying that these guys are listed as terrorists. Saying that the PKK are terrorists is the equivalent of saying that the Black Panther Party are a bunch of terrorists, even though they haven't, even though they're fighting for their civil rights, that they're somehow terrorists, right?
Mm-hmm.
What Erdogan is using is this justification that because there are Kurds there, that we have to eliminate these Kurds. But what you're basically saying is Kurds equal bad, and Kurds are an ethnicity within Syria that are basically homeless. They don't have their own Kurdish state. They have one in Iraq that's not that's not 100% recognized, but it's still there. In Syria, they don't have that. They just live there. They're citizens of the Syrian government, of the Syrian nation. If you take those guys or those people and you list them as terrorists, you're basically blacklisting a whole ethnicity of people. You're going to justify going in and killing all these people just because they're Kurdish. That's ethnic cleansing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't do that. And this is the article where he said they're going to take up, they're gonna take up a road, basically a road east of the Euphrates. Is this the one? Because I got a few. I'm confused. Yeah, you can't do that, man. Come on, Erdogan, you can't. I was with you on the Khashoggi thing. You getting down to that, but now you want to cleanse a whole people. I'm not with you on that. I understand you got beef with America because of the whole coup, failed coup, and America's backing up the Kurds. But you can't. You're gonna get more of a backlash trying to um, cleanse a whole people. Nah, you can't do that, man. Yeah, yeah. And okay, now, and I understand. Yeah, Turkey share a border with Syria. The northeast part, northwest part of Syria is the southwest part of Turkey. Yeah, you're taking on a lot of refugees. You're seeing terrorists at your doorstep. But there's another way of doing this. I understand he's in the positions he's taking are not popular uh, in response to these militants at your doorstep. You have America over there messing around. Yeah, I get it. I understand you have to protect Turkey. You have to protect your borders. You have to make sure this doesn't spill over to your country. I understand that. I agree with you on that. You do have to do that. You are the president. You have to make sure your citizens are protected. You have to curtail this refugee. You're getting flack from Germany and France on your back end about these refugees. I understand because Turkey is the gateway to Europe, the whole entire country. I get that, but You have to deal me. You have to deal with the Kurds that are over there, that are around you in your territory, not include the Kurds that are on the other side of Syria in your battle. That's just my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think you know our esteemed brethren, anti-gravity had mentioned that Erdogan wants to rebuild the Ottoman Empire, but that's never going to happen. Now you can probably try to build it in cyberspace, but not on the ground. That's never going
Oh,
to happen. Syria is never going to submit to that. Iraq would never submit to that. Lebanon would never capitulate to something like that, and neither would Israel. Israel would never allow a an Ottoman Empire right next door to it. That's just not going to happen.
no, that Ottoman Empire was pretty big. That's not gonna happen.
Right, right, and it's just not logical at this point. You just don't have the resources to go to to take on that many different militaries all at once. I mean, they have a strong military, which is why they're in NATO, but um, the idea of rebuilding this Ottoman Empire, that's just not going to happen. And going about it this way is not going to help either. You can't go in there with your guns blazing, or at least your tanks rolling, and thinking that Syrian government's just going to be okay with that. They have a lot of new weapons from Russia, including the T-90 battle tank, which is one of the most formidable tanks in the industry right now. It has long range. I think it can go up to like 900 kilometers or something like that in range. It's pretty far for a tank. Um, and it has some immense firepower. But the idea of going up against something like that militarily, it just isn't worth it. The amount of men that you're going to lose, the amount of what can come from an operation like this. You have to keep in mind that the Kurds are really backed by the United States,
Hmm.
so they have a lot of United States firepower sitting right under their belt. Or they may not have Cobra helicopters or
The potential is there.
yeah, the potential is there.
So yeah, he's just just by the geographical position of Turkey, he's fighting a more of a strategic war than a full-on military fighting war.
It the idea of cleansing out Kurds is really the war that he sees, but that's not a true war. That's ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, that's ethnic cleansing. That's yeah, right. So like I said, he's fighting more of a strategic war, um, than other what where Russia's fighting, which is more of a guns a blazing, jets a shooting war. Yeah, he got he if he start ethnic cleansing, he's gonna get himself and Turkey in trouble. So, like I said, he's fighting more of a strategic war, more than a no physical war.
Right. And there's 40,000 Kurdish fighters, if I remember correctly. That's a whole military,
It is,
especially if they got U.S. weapons.
and they fighting hard too. They not fighting soft. They in it to win it.
Mhm. We'll see what comes out of this in the upcoming weeks. Move on to the next article. Okay, this one is from Press TV again. Chinese intel officers charged with trying to steal U.S. aviation data. A group of Chinese intelligence officers have been charged in the United States with hacking into private companies' computer systems in an effort to steal aviation data. This is big time.
Hmm.
definitely big time stuff. Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
gonna
that's
say that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I guess there's a lot of information that Chinese need now to steal commercial airplane data. I can't see how that can be useful for the Chinese. Maybe they just want to clone some Boeing airplanes or something like that. That's the only thing I
Mm.
can really think of.
I know the article said that they were trying to either train or in the process of making the same or similar part in their engines that they were still the intellectual property. So maybe they were doing it to as a way to sell to boost their well to boost that part of the economy engines. I don't know. Um, maybe put in their jets. If it's some serious technology, then I will understand why they would want to steal the intellectual property and use it to their own military discretion in the PLA and the economy.
Mhm.
But nothing's standing out right now from reading the article why they would do this. But they got themselves in trouble.
Yeah, I'm curious to know why would they try to hack into these private computers in the way that they did. I work in cybersecurity, so that's why I find that to be very interesting. It's a very
Now the
interesting
now
target.
the technology they were trying to get, it was some. When I say serious technology, it was some. It was pretty sophisticated um, technological know-how pertaining to the engines, right?
Mhm.
Hello.
Right. If they can,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And what the Chinese can do with that, I mean, they can actually reverse engineer a lot of this stuff just from the data itself. Because remember, not too long ago, the Chinese had um, copied a Russian fighter jet. I want to say it's the Su-34, and those planes have been falling out the sky left and right because
Mm.
they copied it wrong. And they didn't get it right. So then they went to the Russians and said, "Hey, can you guys help us out?" And the Russians said, "No, thank you. We can't help you with anything.
Hmm.
You stole our technology and it doesn't work for you." So
Yeah, we're not gonna help you out.
yeah,
But
so
yeah,
the Chinese have been known for stealing other people's technology and trying to use it for themselves, and it doesn't always work right.
yeah.
Lost
Well,
a lot of planes. So
yeah, that's pretty much what they really known for. Intellectual property theft.
right.
But yeah, I don't blame Russia. Hey, you tried to do this. We no,
Let me check the chat, see what's going on in the chat.
We ain't got too many people in the chat tonight. I wonder why.
O'Shea has that brother pill tonight, so
Okay, okay. Shout out to O'Shea.
yeah, yes sir. What's
Yeah,
up, Eric King? Uh, Jack Charles, what's going on? Keep it techie, what's going on? Complex, what's going on? Uh, the once and future man, hello, what's going on?
what's going on? What's going on? But yeah, maybe some information to come out more in the future of upon further investigation of these. I think it was four guys. Um, what they were trying to, what their orders were of why they were trying to steal this information. Maybe we'll hear some information about it in the future. But nothing is
Right.
jumping out right now.
Yeah, and the Chinese have been accused of, at least within the United States, of espionage on U.S. Navy. I think there was a person last year that was arrested for basically copying data from U.S. Navy computers or something to that effect, and trying to transfer it back to China.
Mm-hmm. And they did the same thing with Apple months ago, and Apple caught the guy getting on the plane going to China.
I didn't hear about that. What was that?
Um, he copied data from Apple's servers, and they caught him. They caught him at the airport getting on the plane.
Well, even if they did, right? In terms of that sort of espionage, he uploads that to a to the dark web.
Mm-hmm.
So you arrest him, yeah, but it's not like he has some kind of like computer with all this information on it that he's trying to take back to China. In this day and age, they upload that stuff to the dark web. They upload it to multiple BitTorrents, not BitTorrents, GitHubs, and all these other things to transfer that data. So
Okay.
let's get to our next article. This one is from RT. China's Xi tells military to prepare for war as U.S. Navy warns of high seas encounters. Chinese President Xi Jinping told military officials responsible for the disputed South China Sea to be better prepared for war. As tensions with U.S. are rising, Beijing may be bracing for a worst case scenario with the United States. Xi made the blunt remarks last week as he was meeting with Southern Theater Southern Theater Command, the military officials responsible for one of China's 5 strategic war zones. The calls were made on Thursday as part of his 4-day visit to Guangdong province, but the Chinese state media reported them on Friday. So China's taking the gloves off.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing any more games. They had enough of these, these
Shenanigans.
enough of these security violations inside their airspace. Last month in September, they were actually flying um, these Stratoforce bombers over East China Sea, and then again they tried to dock their ships into Hong Kong, and the Chinese said no. So we also saw that there was a collision between a U.S. warship and a Chinese warship, all within September. And we also saw that the tariffs war had kicked up into high gear. So what I'm saying here is the Chinese are putting their foot down now. There's no more shenanigans to be played around with.
Yeah. I saw a video where they say, China is normally reserved with their tongues, and again, they're known for that also. Not saying much being reserved, but for him to come out and say this, yeah, they tired of it. They sick and tired of it. They are a nerve has been touched.
Well, how long do the United States think that they could push these guys around for? Right? Um, you push these guys around with the tariffs. Okay, that's one thing. But to keep flying your airplanes and pushing your warships inside their security zones, there's only so much that can happen. Think about it from a civilian standpoint. You have a house, and you also have a fence around your house. You come home from work one day, and there's a couple of guys sitting outside your house congregating, and you ask them politely, can you please leave my property? When I come home from work, I should expect to see, a clear path to my house. Come back the next day, those guys are still there. Day later, Wednesday, they're still there. Okay, I had enough now. At what point do you stop and you say enough is enough? I'm gonna roll my sleeves up and I'm gonna do something about this.
Right, right.
So obviously, what's going on, brothers?
What's going on, Jack? How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
How much? Good, good. So obviously, just listening to that, right? I think what's the most important, right? And so what is U.S. going to do to answer back to this? Obviously, they've been poking at Chinese, right? So now they're saying, hey, okay, now we're going to step up to the plate. So what do you think is America's next move?
Well, United States has been doing a lot of training inside the South China Sea with their Seventh Fleet. Um, so in that regard, they're pretty much waiting for China's next move. They've already moved all their chess pieces right into place. Okinawa, Guam, bases in the Philippines, bases inside Singapore, and things of that nature. They've already moved all their pieces into place. So it's just a matter of what the Chinese are going to do as a response. Will the Chinese shoot down one of their planes? Will the Chinese jump? Fire off one of their frigates or one of their missile cruisers into a U.S. warship. It's a very scary situation because China is trying to be as reserved as possible. The United States is kind of flexing its muscles, um, and they don't have a whole lot of friends in the region anymore because everybody's pretty much jumping ship. And when you're talking about passing warships in between China and Taiwan, that's a big no-no. That's like passing. That's like just like the Chinese passing warships in between Puerto Rico and United States. That's instant violation by their eyes, right? But they seem to reserve it for themselves that we're gonna sail our ships where we want across the seven seas. China doesn't see it that way. Neither does Russia. And China going to war means that Russia will be on complete standby, waiting for the green light from the Chinese to say come in and tag us in. They have nothing to lose themselves. So
So what you're saying is kind of like U.S. has been waiting for this. All right. So what's the underlying motive? Because from what it looks like to me, U.S. kind of have more to lose. Not so much militarily, but just like in the sense of because this will impact the economy, right? Because it's gonna halt trading, right? It's gonna halt a lot of things, um, and it's gonna hurt international relations. I know U.S. is really looking bad right now in a lot of countries' eyes. So, um,
mhm.
let's say they were to push forward and just let's say have something happen, right? How will this affect U.S.?
So their objective in the South China Sea is to block maritime traffic from China. China can't get any oil ships in to fuel its economy, and they can't get any mercantile ships out either. To complete their business operations. That's a big problem. We discussed this before in the last few hangouts that the last time the United States pulled something like this was 1941 and cut off the oil, put an oil embargo on Japan, and Japan responded with Pearl Harbor. The difference here is that China is much stronger and bigger today than what Japan was, 75 years ago. So if you
Not
stop the Chinese from doing business in the way that in the way that's in their best interest, it can go further than Pearl Harbor. You can see something massive happen.
do you do you think the Chinese have it in them to attack? You think they're they have the balls to do that, or you think they're just this is more of a
Yes, they do have it because they got Russia backing them up.
And they
or is
have
it
Africa
really not
backing them
good?
up too.
And who else?
They have
Africa.
Africa backing them up too.
Mm. You don't. All right. You don't think U.S. like the U.S. advisors and the generals are telling Trump about this? Like, hey man, like this is not really a smart move. they need to be playing ball right now, U.S. and China, as far as on U.S. side. But it's like um, it's just not a smart move. I don't get it. I'm trying to figure out what's the
I
power play in this.
I think
Who's to say that?
the
Who's to
Go ahead.
I,
who's to say that Trump? Who's to say that Trump is even pushing this? Who's to say that the deep state that comprise of these unelected officials who are hungry for conflict and who are drama queens can't wait to get into a conflict with China and Russia? Who's to say that they're not pushing the buttons? I don't think Trump has that military wherewithal to say, send these warships over here and to do this and do that. I don't think he has that understanding. At
yeah
least from my knowledge, he doesn't seem. Go ahead.
Trump is a businessman first, so I don't see military uh, wherewithal in him, and I think the m- military advisors from the military, obviously they know better. But like you said, politicians, the deep state, they have other things in mind.
All right. So from a
Yeah, because
military
war.
stand, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say that because war sells. You know,
Hmm.
they can sell more weapons and more warships can be made and more technology can be made out of this. This whole the military industrial complex is very vicious. They thrive on conflict, so they need conflict to be generated. And when there's no conflict, then they turn to local law enforcement to stop making weapons for them. And those weapons will be used on people who look like you and myself.
So explain to me. So when a war happens, how much money is generated from a war? Seeing that we're in a military complex, like how much money can be generated from a war?
Yeah,
Lionel's a veteran. He could tell you more.
a lot because millions and in upper hundreds of millions, if not billions. It depends on how long the war goes on. If you got like a couple months war, then that's really not worth a lot because you have the war, but then you have other businesses around it that's feeding the war, feeding the supply chain, feeding the communications, feeding the new technologies, feeding the missiles and the jets and the fuel and things like that. It war take up supplies. Remember when I think that was in the 40s. Then I think World War II, they were saying the U.S. is saying turn in your medals to help the war cause. The war feed the war needs supplies. So it spawns a economy to do better. But when that economy goes up because of that war effort, because of those businesses getting money around that war, when the war stops, now you're looking at a cliff. No more business.
Hmm.
And
So
it's
you're
never going to
saying
stop. It's never going to stop because the companies are just not going to stop employing people because there's no conflict. They'll find some kind of conflict to ratchet up.
Hmm.
hold on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So now let's put the pieces together, right? You have everything's going with Iran. You have everybody's coming off the SWIFT. Everybody's trying to get off the dollar, right? And you have the economy is kind of like getting ready to downturn. Do you think a war with China would help the economy and keep things going?
It'll
Usually,
prolong the
wars.
economy. Say
Yeah,
again.
usually when your economy is about to take a dump, you usually ratchet up a war to jumpstart the economy again. The difference between World War II and today is that you didn't have all this technology in the global market back then. You didn't have that. You barely have any roads on any paved roads. I mean, it's only recently that we've had highways and expressways and things like that. That didn't come until after World War II. We didn't have that before. So the the market today is different than what it was back then. Back then, you had a necessity to build infrastructure and connect roads and things like that, and highways and build bridges and stuff like that. Today, you don't have that necessity, so to speak. I mean, you can barely maintain the bridges and roads that you have now. I mean, look at Chicago. Look at the amount of potholes that are in Chicago. They can't even fill those potholes, but they want to go to war. I don't know.
It's not a potholes.
So how things how sorry about that. I'm trying to put these kids to bed. So pretty much how things are looking right now. I think maybe war might be a good thing on U.S. government, but as a whole, who do you think is going to have the biggest impact? Let's say they were to go to war with China. Who's going to take the biggest hit? Because um like how you think will play out if we were to go to war with China? Like how you think the whole thing will play out from seeing both sides economically, militarily wise? How you think it will play out? Like who will take the biggest losses?
I know you can answer that.
The biggest losses of a war breaking out.
Yeah, like who
Well,
would come out at the end and not really be ahead? Who will hurt the most?
the person who loses the war, who can't sustain that war if it's drug out. The person the person's land whose the war is fought on. If it's fought in China, on Chinese land, they would lose out more. If it's fought on American soil, that we would lose out more because it destroys your infrastructure. And when them bombs fly and things getting destroyed, whoever can't sustain that that war in terms of resources and supplies, if they use up all their resources just to feed the war, then they're gonna come out on the bad end of the stick because now their economy in disarray. They don't have any money left. Um, that's what I can think of.
Well, you have to think about where the attack is going to come from, who's going to be impacted first, right? So the idea is to take out Chinese maritime operations. So they're looking at taking out Chinese sea lift capabilities. Even though Chinese sea lift capabilities are actually pretty strong for the moment, um, they're better than Russia's sea lift capabilities. So they have the ability to fight in blue waters. Um, Now, would there be a land warfare operation? I don't think so. I don't think you're going to see U.S. Tanks crawling into in Shanghai or Beijing. That's just not going to happen. They won't even get that far into the coast. I mean, they may try to come up through Hong Kong, but even Hong Kong would be a disaster because um, the way the way the streets are all set up and things of that nature. You wouldn't be able to get that many U.S. tanks down those streets in such a quick amount of time that allows the Chinese to actually not respond. That's just not going to happen. China is very strategic, so they would know if you're seeking up in their backyard at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to get your tanks onto their into their backyard. This is not going to happen. What would
Now,
happen is go ahead.
now, do you think America would fight from Taiwan? Fight China from Taiwan?
Well, that's what China is building up their military for, right? In order for them to fight the United States, they have to take out Taiwan first, neutralize Taiwan, and fight from Taiwan.
Why Taiwan first?
Because if the United States captures Taiwan and they occupy the island of Taiwan, then that's the strategic place for them to fight from, and they're not going to be fighting by themselves. They're going to be fighting right next to the Taiwanese because the Taiwanese know that if they can't defend their island, then they're screwed. There is no place there is no else for them to go. They have to actually put up a fight.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting to see how things play out because right now, even with the trade wars, right, a lot of people are taking a hit, man. Small businesses, prices of iPhones are going up. Like a lot of people, it's affecting a lot of people's lives right now. So this happening too, added to the mix. Um, I don't think it'd be very beneficial to anybody. But again, at the end of the day, when it comes to this country, it's all about power and resources. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how things play out.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that hey, Dr. Yaya, what's going on? I don't think that United States is going to crawl any put any tanks on the streets of China anytime soon. But Taiwan is a strategic point because they just Trump just signed a package, a military aid package to Taiwan for $330 million. Um,
Mm.
that includes a whole lot of advanced U.S. military hardware. So China doesn't like that. China's already voiced their frustration that they don't appreciate you doing business with with our people behind our backs. If you want to do business with China, if you want to do business with Taiwan, it has to go through the mainland of China. But because you've been sidestepping, the mainland and going behind our backs doing business with Taiwan, that's that's not cool. So the equivalent here would be imagine if China started doing business with Puerto Rico directly and didn't answer to the United States in Washington D.C. Puerto Rico is a commonwealth of the United States, so by and large, it's real political power is in Washington and not inside San Juan. But if you look at Taiwan, they're basically saying that Taiwan is an independent country by doing business with them. And what you've seen recently has been the Dominican Republic, El Salvador, um, what do you call that? Nicaragua. They stop acknowledging and representing or stop acknowledging Taiwan as an independent country. And now now you're starting to see big Chinese U.S. I mean, not, big Chinese embassies being built inside um, Dominican Republic and um, El Salvador and all these other places as a way to let everybody else know in the United States that we're here and we're here to stay. There will be no more business being done with Taiwan.
Hmm.
All right, so uh, I'm trying to think, man. So let's say after all this, right? Do you think this could change after this war? It could change the 'cause what tells me? I don't. I think it's a battle that America will lose, right? I think America will take the biggest loss, and I think it's gonna kind of push China's somewhat dominance throughout the world because a lot of people have been trying to get at United States. So um, I don't know. I know. This might change kind of like U.S. is seen as a superpower. I think after this war, if this does happen, China might be the new superpower. And then it'll be
China is a superpower.
yeah, I know, but just kind of like everything is kind of more revolved around U.S. right now. I think it's gonna be more revolved around China. You kind of get what I'm saying?
Well, that already happens now, right?
Okay.
Most 90% of your goods come out of China. It doesn't really come from anywhere else. Your iPhones are all made in China. Your Samsung TVs are made in China. Your laptops are all built in China. There's very little that you buy that doesn't have any sort of Chinese manufacturing or DNA attached to it. So going to war with China would mean that you would shut down the economy overnight. That would send the economy of the United States into a tizzy because they don't have any manufacturing facilities that can replace China. You just don't have that. There's nobody here that can make TVs in the same production capacity that the Chinese do. So if there is a conflict, I can always guarantee you right now, 55-inch TVs will shoot up to $3,000 overnight.
Damn. It's not a smart move, man. This is not a smart move. I don't know. It's not smart.
The black market would go up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You'll see a lot of smuggling coming through Mexico.
Yeah, it's not smart.
Yeah, it's going to be chaotic because it's different if you want to fight Russia, because Russia doesn't really make anything outside of vodka that gets shipped to the United States. I mean, you might have a few Pookies and Ray Rays that can't get their their white breakfast, but or their liquid breakfast, but that's you know it's not a major crisis. But if you're talking about battle in China, what's going to happen in Japan? Because Japan has Okinawa, and that's where U.S. military bases are. And so the Japanese don't really want a conflict because they don't really have any other place to go. Right there on the island. And they don't want any missiles falling down on top of their heads because of what the U.S. is doing inside, Chinese territory. And then you have to factor in that, a lot of these Asian countries may not align themselves up with the United States. They might be friends with the United States, but they're not going to align themselves up with it for what? Because once the United States pulls out, look what happened to Turkey. Turkey shot down a Russian fighter jet in 2015. You think the United States came to their rescue? No, the United States pulled their missile capabilities out of Turkey, and they left. They left Turkey high and dry. So that's why Turkey and Russia had to make up and say, well, let's let bygones be bygones, but you owe us reparations. And that's what they got out of Turkey. They think they got like $1 billion in reparations out of them overnight.
Damn. Oh, geopolitics, man. It's no joke. It is no joke.
Yeah. Turkey learned their lesson, and they're basically saying, we saw the writing on the wall. We saw what you did, and we're pretty much done with this whole entire NATO operation. Now, if there is a conflict, I think the United States will use that Article 5 to respond. But based on the last incident with shooting down a Russian fighter jet in 2015, and the United States pretty much was like, not our business. We're not going to fight over you, right? Because Article 5 says that if one NATO member is attacked, then all NATO members must respond. Let's say Russia responds by shooting down other Turkish aircraft and knocking down warships or something to that effect. You think the United States wants to go to war with Russia over that? I don't think so.
So they backed out that treaty. Man.
Not so much they backed out. They just they kind of balked on it, right? Just like a baseball pitcher doesn't actually throw to first base. He kind of balked on that.
So let's say they were to go to, let's say war happens with China. Do you think the allies would come and support U.S. on this, or they're gonna kind of stand down?
What's in it to gain for them? The last time that there was a war in Vietnam, Cambodia was hit, Laos was hit, Thailand was hit. All who else got affected by that war in Vietnam? Took nasty casualties down there. They remember all that stuff. They don't forget all of that. It wasn't that long ago. It was only in the late '60s, early '70s that they were taking massive casualties like that at the hands of the United States.
Yeah, I don't know what to say, man. This is like damn.
It's complicated.
Damn.
It's complicated. It's very, very complicated.
All right, so so what do you expect the next few weeks, next couple of weeks? What do you expect? Like they getting the army ready to say they're ready. You think there'll be more cyber warfare first, and then
We're
next
already in the
level?
cyber
Or
war.
yeah, I know they hacked into the.
Already in the cyber war.
But you think they're going to continue? They're going to put more of a bigger effort into that, or is it going to be they're gonna shoot a missile? What do you think is next?
A true cyber war would mean that your utilities, your hospitals, and all that stuff comes offline. That's
Mm,
what that means. If you think that the Chinese and the Russians don't have that capability, most countries in within the G20 already have those capabilities.
mm, damn,
If they want
I
to
didn't know
target your
that.
hospitals, if they want to, yeah, if they want to go after St. Jude's Children's Hospital, they'll shut that down and let those kids suffer.
Mm,
That's war.
damn.
Let's get to our last article.
Yeah, man. That's heavy, man. Yeah, let's keep it moving. Yeah.
The Moscow Times. This one's from October 26th. U.S. has invited Putin to Washington, Bolton says. Whoa, I thought you was at war with these guys. I thought there was, maneuvers in the South China Sea. What happened? I mean, not South China Sea. I thought there was a INF treaty that was, reneged on. What happened? The White House has invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to Washington. U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton said on Friday. Putin and Trump have met several times on the sidelines of multilateral gatherings, but only had one bilateral summit in the Finnish capital in July. That was the Helsinki summit. We have invited President Putin to Washington, Bolton said. It was not immediately clear if Putin had accepted the invitation. After the Helsinki encounter, Trump was accused by opponents and even some members of his own Republican Party of failing to stand up to the Russian leader. Oh, you have to stand up to somebody. Um, yeah, we have military maneuvers being performed on your border. We have sanctions on you, but why don't you come to Washington D.C. and have some have some Ovaltine and some Fig Newtons or something like that with us and chill. Like, no, there is no Netflix and chill with Putin. He doesn't do that.
Yeah, yeah. Putin that dude.
So when it comes to Putin, is either
Yeah,
is either black or white, pretty much. Is how it is. Like he's either like hot or cold. I'm confused. Like explain to me. Like what do you mean?
no, Putin is not some. Putin is a very strategic person. He's a lawyer by trade, and he's a black belt in jujitsu. He's 67 years old, or he's 65 years old, and he's still out there whooping millennials on the mat. You can see videos on YouTube of him doing this. What I'm saying here is he's not some a populist. He's not a populist. He's a real strategic person that is respected within the Russian Federation. You don't play games with people like this. He's not Kanye West. He's not coming in with skinny jeans and funny glasses. This is somebody that is serious about defending his patriotism for his and the sovereignty for his state. You take somebody like that into Washington D.C. The last time they took somebody to Washington D.C. like that was Gaddafi, and they took Gaddafi to D.C. A year or so later they took him out.
So you think Putin is like coming into this situation thinking like, hey, what's really going on, or like, like 'cause I just noticed that U.S. kind of play games, man. They're playing games, and um, when it comes to this, like, what do you think? What do you think Putin's thinking about this? What do you think his mindset is from his actions on after this meeting? What's his thoughts?
Well, he already told Trump that we don't tweak foreign policy. When we say we mean what we say, and we act on our words. So there is no bluff with us. Don't play with us.
So in other words, he's serious. He doesn't really play games. Doesn't play no games.
Vladimir
But
Putin is 66,
Yeah, 66.
and
He also has a daughter. He also has a daughter that's up and coming too. So you could tell by the way he walk, he's serious. He's not.
yeah,
You know, you think he grew up in Chicago or something like that.
right,
yeah, yeah.
man, he's in 66. He in shape, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't
Walking
think he was
around with
that
his
old.
shirt off, he's gangster.
I thought he was like younger than that, but I know he was 66.
Shoot,
So
Trump
okay,
72.
Who?
damn.
Trump.
Oh wait, I mean, it's Trump, right? We don't even know if that. We don't. You don't even know if that's his real hair.
So what do you think? What do you think is Russia's sentiments towards U.S.? I know we always had since the Cold War. You know, we've been going back and forth with each other. You know, U.S. is this or Russia is this, but currently right now, what do you think is Russia's sentiments towards U.S.?
Russia has already said that they want to be friends with the United States. Um, if we take into consideration what they did after 9/11, they gave Bush all of the GPS coordinates inside Afghanistan, um, and gave him actual a flight path to get into Afghanistan through Russian airspace. They were very generous in their attempt. Well, Putin was very generous in his attempt to build bridges with Washington, with the United States, and they stabbed him in his back one too many times. You know, a lot of people don't know that. You know, I think we talked about this before. That when Hurricane Katrina happened, it was Fidel Castro who said we could send doctors up to to help with all those black people who are suffering up there. And it was Bush who basically told him to go get lost. But this is how the leadership of this country reacts to you know foreign powers. That's how they repay people.
Damn, hold on. Okay, hold on. Cuba tried to send doctors to Katrina, and Bush said no.
Yeah, Castro said that he would send doctors up to up to New Orleans if so needed. If you need them, we have them. And what the United States did was say, get lost, and they let all those people suffer and drown.
Damn. So looking at that, right, that they want to do that. So not coupled with China and see anything with Russia is like they don't mind letting the country suffer. You know, as far as even just with trying to mend ties and mend relationships, they'll let a country suffer just so they can look a certain way. So what that mean is countries leadership is kind of backwards, man. It's just right there in front of your face. It just looks backwards. I don't know why you were just screw over. Russia's trying to reach your hand out to you, and you kind of screw them over like that. Um, that says a lot. You know, I know other countries are watching, and to see that happen is deep. But when Gaddafi got taken out in his country, right? What was Russia saying about this? What was there? What was there? Did Putin speak on this?
Yeah, he actually said, we're tired of being nice to you.
Mm,
We've been nice to you. We offered way too many opportunities to extend our hands out, and you slap our hands every time. And I think he has a phrase that he said in Russian. I can't pronounce it right now, but he basically said, "You can't shake hands with a closed fist."
mm,
And to
that's
be
deep.
honest with you, I watched an interview. I watched an interview with Putin, and he said that um, they want to be like the United States. They want the branding. They want the culture. They like they like everything that the United States does culturally, but they don't understand why you won't let us be a part of the same exact thing, and that's kind of frustrating to him.
So pretty much Russia respects U.S. then, but they make it seem in the media like Russia like wants to kill us or whatever. But for you wanting to be like
Power respects
somebody,
power.
mm, that's deep. That's deep.
They don't
So
respect
what?
black men because black men are not in power.
Mm. So again, let's say back to what's going on with Russia, what's going on with China, right? I know as far as investments and opportunities, both these countries has reached their hands out to the African American community, to black men, right? As far as investing in technology or in the infrastructure, certain things like that, they want to, work with us. So, seeing what everything's going on, where do you think, as black men, we should position ourselves to benefit from what's going on here? Because obviously, we can't just sit in the sideline and have our hands crossed. We need to be doing something. So, what do you think is best for black men to do?
I've always stated that we have to organize politically, in the same way that the everybody else operates. You know, your Muslims have CAR, which is Center for American Islamic Relations, if I remember correctly. That's what that stands for. And then you have APAC, which is American Israeli Political Affairs Committee. We don't have anything. I mean, you have Black Chamber of Commerce, but that doesn't suit a lobbyist and political agenda. We need an organized body that coordinates our concerns and our best interests, not just in America, but on a scale across the Atlantic to the continent. And then we have to actually start thinking of a banking system that allows us to use cryptocurrencies to do business on other continents and other countries, and not be affected by um, the Western currencies, the pound and the dollar and the franc. And then number three, we need some form of nakba, or a constitutional body that oversees all of this and make sure that people who are doing business with us, within our camp and within our circles, doesn't screw us over. And we need a military arm that can enforce that and protect our constitution and protect our global interests. We're not thinking on that level because we're still talking about people opening up barbershops and fried chicken stands, and we need to think on a more global scale because our oppression is very global as it is.
Well said. Any
Let's
anything
go.
come from chat room?
Yeah, let's go to the chat. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, Abdullah, thank you for that. Abdullah says CARE stands for Council of American Islamic Relations. Yeah, it's not center. I was actually had that wrong, but thank you though. Zoe Royalty says the U.S. is relatively young, is relatively young power. Russia, China, Europe are all older than the U.S. The harder they rise, the harder they fall. Agreed. Dr. Yaya says yes. My cousin was going to come. He's a doctor in Cuba. A lot of people, A lot of people who want to bash socialism always wants to point to Venezuela, but doesn't want to point to what Cuba has produced in terms of human power, human resources. They have doctors. When the United States wants to send military, to Africa during the Ebola crisis, Cuba said we're sending doctors up there.
Hmm.
You have any links on the side that you want to bring up? I know.
No, the one thing I want to speak about, we already spoke about. Ulysses sent out an email earlier about Xi Jinping saying to prepare, well, telling the Navy to prepare, be more prepared, maybe prepare for war with America, and we spoke about that one. Um, no others that I want to bring up.
Maybe we could bring up we could bring up local politics in terms of these mass shootings,
Yeah, yeah,
terrorism.
yeah. I saw LAR movement. He did a great video pertaining to the shooting that happened in Pittsburgh,
I
and
didn't know that. You know the name of the video?
uh, so it was, so you want to take a knee now, some to that effect. Um, and during the Pittsburgh Steelers game, I didn't see the game. He said that they took a knee to basically commemorate the shooting, the mass shooting. And I know when I went to the VA, they had the flags half staff. Um, but he was saying basically, Colin Kaepernick, he took a knee during the national anthem, and people didn't like that. But you want to take
Wait,
a
wait, wait,
knee?
wait, wait. They didn't like the fact that Colin Kaepernick took a knee for this Pittsburgh shooting.
No, no. Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee because of black injustice,
Okay, okay.
but he was saying that they took a knee because of the shooting, and he was pointing out the hypocrisy of them taking a knee during the football game because of the shootings that happened, but because someone take a knee for black injustice, a mass number of people disagree with that.
It doesn't take much to expose people's racism. Does not take much at all, especially when it comes to dealing with these people. But I do find it interesting that the United States would lower the flags half staff at least at the VA facilities, but when the Charleston shooting happened um, in South Carolina, I don't recall any of these flags being half staff after that massive church shooting.
Yeah, can't remember if it was half staff or not. Yeah,
I
but I know.
I don't recall that.
Yeah.
I don't see any at least I didn't see anybody wearing these ribbons on their sleeves saying never forget. And this guy's manifesto basically said that he planned on doing this and he hated black people and niggers and all this other stuff, right? I mean that was the extent of his hatred for these people.
Mhm.
And they bought him a hamburger when he was finished.
Right, 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 right. A Whopper. Yeah.
Yeah, you want cheese with that?
Do you think these alt right these white nationals on this are because they're the ones, man. Like everybody's becoming more evident now that it's more obvious that they're the ones out here doing these mass killings. You know, from for what we see. So, what do you think is going to come out of these groups? Have they respond as far as like are they claiming, okay, yeah, he's one of us, or they're like trying to back away from that? Because as more time go on, uh, those from that particular party are looking, you know, looking more crazy. They're not looking right. So, what do you think this is going to play out as far as throughout the nation? How's it going to play out with their party?
To me, it's not a party issue; it's a people issue. It doesn't matter if it's coming from the right or the left, because you have sickos on both sides that hate black people and they hate Jewish people. You heard down in what was that in Virginia, right? When they were marching out there and they basically said, Jews will not replace us or something like that, right? These guys are walking around with AR-15s and tiki torches. You get a couple of black men congregating, on the streets in New York or anything like that, and immediately, you're labeled as a gang member or a gang affiliate, and now they have a, just cause to arrest you. But you have 200 white men and women with tiki torches and assault rifles, and nobody says anything about it. They have the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment, but that doesn't apply to black people though. So I'm glad that we have this person in the White House, because it's exposing all of the hypocrisy that many of these people have.
And worldwide, I know people are watching, right? And I guess U.S. has always been known as a very racist and country. So I think this kind of like shed more light, especially who's in office with the racial tones in America. They try to be like people. People try to say, oh well, it's not like that. But as more time go on, it's like it becomes more evident day by day. So um, what do you suggest for Black people should do? Um, seeing go ahead.
We already said it, like I mean, and not only here, but multiple times throughout the years. Organization. It's easy to say organization. You can say organization till you blue in the face. You can say
Mm-hmm.
organize every day. People, that's the first thing people. It says so much that it's the first thing people know what to do, but how to do it. What's the first step, and along what lines would that organization come about? Would be economic organization, political organization, those type of organizations, and how to do it and get the ball rolling. Everybody's not gonna go. Everybody's not gonna organize with you. So when you say what black people should do, I understand you're saying black people as a whole, but
Yeah.
everybody's not gonna go. We
Mm.
we already know that. So you know what to do. You've heard organize already throughout the
Mm-hmm.
years. Get the organizer.
Of course. Okay.
You have to organize with like-minded people. Is really the most important aspect, because what you're starting to see now, you're starting to see a division in Black America. You have um, BLM, these nefarious actors and characters who want to dance and twerk in front of cameras in time of crisis. And then you have, the Black Brain Trust, who sits here three times a week, giving you content that can't be found anywhere else on social media,
Mm.
giving you solutions every single week, and yet um, people aren't hitting the like button. People aren't subscribing to us in the same capacity that you see in other platforms where non critical, non mission critical ideas are being generated.
Mm-hmm.
No complex thoughts or anything of that nature. So it's a matter of, do people really want to organize, and do people really see that there's a problem?
Mm. Damn. That's a dysfunction. This is dysfunction. Oh man. All right. Okay. So, okay. What's your thoughts on what's going on this past weekend? We had that um the black. I think it was black. Okay, there was a summit in the U.S. I mean, in the White House. I forgot what it was called again.
Third Black Republican Youth Summit.
Okay. So, what was your thoughts on that, brothers, on the summit?
Go ahead,
Me,
Lana.
me personally, I think it shows that Black people, more specifically Black men, are not just going to blindly vote Democrat just because our uh, elders said so, the women said so. No, we're not going to do that. We need to look to see. That doesn't mean that we're going to automatically just become Republicans, but we're going to look to see which party serves our needs. We've said it before. You don't have permanent friends, you got permanent interests. And which party serves those interests? Right now, we know that the Democratic Party is not serving the black man's interests because throughout these years, statistics show that we are basically the bottom of the barrel um, in America. So we need to go with people who's going to serve our interests. And right now, it looks like that's the Republican Party. If the Republican Party ceases to do that, and uh, another party or candidate serves our interests, then they'll get our vote. And not only do we need to do it with our vote, we need to do it with our money also. So it's not real cut. It seems cut and dry solutions from the start. It's cut and dry, but once you start to get into it, there's decisions to be made.
Hmm. I think that it's a. I think in regards to the Black Republican Youth Summit, I think that was a game changer because in my lifetime, I haven't seen anything like this. Now if it has been done before, I wasn't aware of it, but I think it's a, game changer. I only wish that I could have been a part of something like that. Um, I don't know what was discussed there because I haven't really followed up on it, but I would hope that they address a lot of these concerns that we bring up on the Black Brain Trust. I think what goes on for Black men is that we're kind of polarized in where we stand. Right, we have women who have already made their political alliance with the Democratic Party, and then you have Black men who don't like the Republicans because of what they perceive, but will stick with the Democrats based on what they know that is not in their best interest anyways. So if your suggestion is to who do you vote for? Well, you can't trust neither one. Then okay, then vote for independent. Then change your status to independent, and then do that. Why does it have to be if I don't trust neither one, I'm just going to sit out on the sidelines? Well, if you just sit out on the sidelines, you do nothing, then you have no political power. You disempowered yourself, not even your opponents. You're disempowering yourself. The problem here is totally on a cumulative level. On a cumulative level, we have not we have not sat down and really put down on the table what our concerns are and what the agenda should be.
So, I grew up a Democrat, right? So, in my household, and I'm still trying to figure out what has the Democrats done for black men. You guys are obviously a lot. I know you're a little older than me, but what have Democrats done for, especially for black men? I've seen a lot of things done for black women. I'm not knocking that, but I'm trying to figure out like what has been done for black men, as far as the Democratic Party.
I can't say. I think that's more dependent on a per state basis.
Yeah.
Different states have different progressions. I know in the South it's a lot more conservative, but I can say that social equity programs being generated in terms of how it deals with criminal justice, that has been somewhat effective, right? You have the ability to uh, have your case expunged or have your record expunged from the records of research by these employers. They can't just not hire you based on what your record was. If you're not a convicted felon or you already served time, then you can have that record expunged. If you have parking tickets, anything like that, that shouldn't show up on your record at all. So with that being said, I think that's an effective transformative framework.
Yeah.
If it was me, then how I would approach it is we need at least a 16-point agenda that addresses a lot of the concerns that Black men have, regardless of what party it is. It needs to be some kind of national agenda that approaches everything from a progressive standpoint, because you can't have. I mean, people claim to be conservative, but you can't have conservatism in a transitional society. I mean, 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet. Now you have the internet. And now you have smartphones that allow you to, record video, buy things online, play games and things like that. 20 years ago, that was unheard of, to have a phone like that. So you have to keep up with the times. And I think that what happens with people who claim to be conservative is that they want to hold on to these these values from, the 1800s, and that doesn't really work. I don't see those people out there, with the Amish, and with horses and buggies. I don't see you churning your milk or churning your butter, right? You're not out there doing that. You're only conservative where it satisfies you.
Interesting. Yeah. It's becoming more evident that Black men really doesn't have no representation. Like, I even went online, right, and I just did a Google search on like Black men, and I put Black men and like statistics, right, and all popped up was just more of just like shootings, and I didn't see anything else. And I put other races, I put like white men and statistics, and I won't see none of that, right? So I see like we don't have no real representation for us. I don't see any body really speaking the voice for the Black man, right? So I think our voices need to be heard. It was surprising to me. I read an article and it said like 95% of Black women voted for Hillary, right? But it wasn't a higher percentage for Black men who even voted for Hillary. So I think a lot of Black men didn't vote last year. Or the last election didn't really vote, because the number was so low. But I think right now there's going to be more of a turnout from Black men as far as voting.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see how things play out. But again, I think it's becoming more evident that the Black man is marginalized. Man, they don't have a voice, and they're at the bottom of the totem pole. So a change need to happen.
There's just quite a few things that can be done. If you look in the chat, I think Maddox Christian is actually dropping some suggestions for a 10 to 16-point plan.
Okay.
Hey, Lionel, can you send the link?
Yep. I'm on top of it.
Right. To me, there should be a. Well, I was just going to say that. To me, there should be a plan to actually do something about the most irritable things that really plague urban cities, right? So if you look at places like Baltimore, Philadelphia, Chicago, New York, Boston, even Atlanta too, all these dirt bikes that these Black men love to be riding throughout the day, doing nothing with their life, right? There has to be something that can be done to address that part of lack of productivity, because you're wasting a lot of time. While you out there riding a dirt bike, you got Indians who are studying 2 and 3 hours a day trying to figure out how to improve the blockchain and put DNA on the blockchain to improve genomics.
So it comes down to priorities, pretty much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what should be black
when
man
you really
number one priority? What should be our number one priority as a community? Other than the organization, what should we?
But there has to be a political agenda. There has to be a political agenda because you lack political power.
Okay. Good stuff.
Okay, it seems like to me that you're asking step 1, step 2, step 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
When that's hard to say. You know, yes, we need. Well, off the bat, we know we need political and economic power, but there is no there is no clear, in my opinion, there is no clear cut. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. We just know we need these specific types of power. Doing it, achieving this is not clear cut. We just to answer your question, we just know we need these specific types of power.
Of course.
Going about doing it is not really a clear cut step 1, step 2, step 3. But that doesn't mean that we can't still do it.
Well, if we look at the chat, I think I just saw that Jedi Focus says you would have to change the environment for that. I disagree. I was in Atlanta when I used to work for a certain company. When I was in Atlanta, I saw Indians well focused, organized, living together. No gender war. How is it that they can do it from another country, come here, right in your own city, right in your own neighborhoods, organize, live together, buy houses together, and even start some of their own businesses in terms of information technology, and yet you all aren't doing the same thing? But you're telling me that riding dirt bikes is a part of the environment that needs to be changed first? I don't comprehend that. Okay, he says, got to change the culture of the failure we got now. I wish Jedi Focus would get on the hangout. I don't really want to debate him from the chat. But who just signed up? Who just signed on? Oh,
I sent the link to Nagone.
yeah. Christian wants it too. So
okay, I'll send it to him.
And Dr. Yaya, if you're listening, if you want to get on, we can send it to you as well.
Like, okay, to be more clear, let's take political. So why is my internet so slow? What's come on, think what words am I trying to think of? Preparedness, or I forgot. Oh my god, I forgot the T. People may think of that, not political, economic. People may think of that as owning a barbershop or owning the businesses in your community. Other people may think of that as doing something international. Some people may think of government contracts. So that's that. Even though we know we need these types of political organizations, not political. I'm using the example of economic organizations. People may think of it in different ways, and that's fine. To me personally, that's fine. Um, Christian, I just sent you the tag, not tag the link. I it's just whoever thinks that economic organization is based on this, okay, do that. Whoever thinks economic organization is based on this, do that. What Mike just said, you're not. You need to link up with like minds. That's fine. Do that, but make sure you do it, and make sure you achieve, and make sure we all work together. Some people may think political organization is um, your or alderman or mayor or this or that. Okay, fine, do that, achieve it, but and bring that to the table. That's what I'm saying. As it's not a clear cut 1, 2, 3 step. It's only a clear, in my opinion, it's only a clear cut 1, 2, 3 step when we know what we need to do, such as economic and political.
Well, one of the things that I think really hurts black men as well is that a lot of black male labor is unwanted. In comparison, relative to a lot of your foreign labor that's coming in here across the border. You see this caravan coming up here. That's a lot of labor that's very usable and not not resistant to to assimilation. Whereas a lot of these black men that you see roaming about who either claim to be conscious or not, a lot of their labor is not wanted, not needed either.
Hmm.
So
And
trying to employ those types of men becomes problematic because what do you do with aged men over 40?
it doesn't have a skill. That's a problem.
Exactly.
They just becomes a burden on the community, the community resources, and the community doesn't have many resources already. So that burden becomes heavier. See, these are the things that I feel a lot of black women who are politically aligned need to think about. You're saying, okay, when people say this caravan is coming up, let them in for political asylum. The and for black men, that's that's not a good idea for us. That's we're gonna be hurt. Those black men in where they're gonna be coming to, mainly they're gonna be on the on not East Coast or West Coast. Those black men are gonna be affected directly. You can't sustain that for as a black man, we can't sustain that. We gotta say, wait, hold on. You about to let by the time they get here, it's gonna be a good 7,000 at least. These people come in and okay, where they gonna work, where they gonna sleep, where this, where that, what jobs they're gonna have. It's a problem, man. What the hell?
Hmm. Right, and we live in a different age now. It's not like the 1960s and 70s when you had auto manufacturing booming and hitting its peak. Now you live in a digital age where you need digital engineering and digital architects. We talk about this on Mondays, where we talk and Fridays as well. Blockchain development, Python, Java, uh, SQL, uh, Bash, Linux operating systems, IoT. All of these skill sets, or all of these technologies need a skill set, and unfortunately, a lot of these black men who have aged past 40 cannot actually keep up with it. And to take resources and apply it to black men who are going into an age bracket for AARP to keep calling, rather than to put those resources back into your under 18, your Generation Zs, I just don't see the value, the immediate return on investment there. So
Mm.
Wait, repeat the last part you just said. You don't see the return on investment where?
on your aged black men,
Okay.
right? I don't see the value in putting those resources into aged black men over your Generation Zs, your age 6 to 18. I just don't see the value in that. So you're gonna have to dump at least quarter of a billion dollars into your youth, into program development just to get them up to speed. I would also argue that the SBA has not done enough in working with black men or black males for that matter, because a lot of their funding, if I remember correctly, actually goes to black women, not black men. So there's a what's that?
That's true. That's 100% true.
Yeah. So there's a unequal amount of resources being redistributed to one part of the community and not the other where it's necessary. So you hear a lot about black women owning their own businesses and going to college and things like that, because a lot of those resources are being allocated for them, but not being allocated for the males. And then you have people who come in here and say, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. Well, somebody already took my boots.
Yeah. I noticed that there's a lot of programs, even government contracting, right? There's avenues for veterans, black women to make money. I don't see anything for black men. It's just there's I don't really see anything for allocated for especially black men, and which that's really surprising to me because a lot of black men died in wars. A lot of black men contributed a lot to American society, right? Just with inventions, just with um, you know, with technology, even just with the government, this with the infrastructure, and at the end of the day, they get nothing in return. That's just mind-boggling to me. And then they get treated like dirt. Like literally, all I've seen is black men contribute to society. All they try to do, and I just don't understand it. I don't get it, and they still continue to contribute to this day. So yeah,
Well,
even
I still
even
I
with
still think
even with
I
Lionel,
still think
he gave time to the military. He contributed, so I don't understand it either. So, but go ahead.
well, even from a even from a small business perspective, we have to look at what are some of these areas that black men could actually be getting on top of. Uh, I think I've talked about this before, but you have these tower contractors, these tower engineers, the guys who go up on these cell phone towers and put up new cell phone antennas for major telecom companies, AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile. They're all rolling out 5G right now. They're all improving their towers all across the country. A lot of these jobs are not being fulfilled by white men anymore.
Mm,
These are my understanding is that the starting pay is something like 55 to 60 grand a year just to go up a tower.
mm. So what do you think the problem is? What's the problem?
People don't are there political illiteracy is a big problem. Digital illiteracy is another problem. You can kind of see the parallels here, right? The lack of understanding of geopolitics, which is why we have this hangout, and then the lack of understanding of the new digital industry, the new fourth industrial revolution, which is why we have Mondays hangout with space and technology. It's one of the main reasons why we focus on this. So the lack of literacy in these areas is actually hurting a lot of black men. It's one thing, back in the day, it was one thing not to know, to not be able to read. The ability not to read, you can kind of avoid. You can bring home a job application and kind of let somebody else fill it out for you. Now you can't do that anymore. All that stuff is online, and if you don't have a LinkedIn account, you're screwed. Nobody's checking for you at that point. You're out of the you're out of the social network bubble.
So it's a problem with just with it's more the information. It's just the information. So I think something like this, what we're doing here, is one way to solve it. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You still got brothers out here with email addresses that say, Lil Ray Ray 69. 69? I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah, I agree with that. The email thing, I've witnessed that before. No, I've had to tell somebody, "Hey, you can't use this email. Uh, you gotta use another email because just about the email, you ain't nobody gonna hire you with this email, man.
You're not even gonna get a call back.
Right.
Just off the email, huh?
Oh yeah, they'll that's enough. Those are things that get black men no callback at all.
If your email is Lou
And then you have
Killer,
to count.
that come on now. That's and you 39. Your email is Big Trigger. Come on now. And I'm using these absurd email names to describe, but people emails are similar to what I'm describing. You use something sensible. First initial, last name, or something. The last first name, last something. Golly,
The white man got his foot on my back.
right. I can't think of a good email name. You know,
Big dummy.
right. I
Yeah,
love black
taking,
people.
even headshots. Even headshots, on
Yeah,
LinkedIn, you want a quick callback, man. A professional headshot actually works. Showing up with a do rag and a fitted hat ain't gonna work.
yeah.
You can't show a do rag to do a debate.
Maybe in your barbershop you can do something like that, but not not in these networks. No.
And
So pretty much, it's an image issue. It's more about image right now.
no. It's not
Yeah,
more about image. Image plays a part. Image plays a part. It's not more about image because the email is not just image. That's just a part of the whole. It's like slices of a pie.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think they should. I
If
don't know, man. This stuff should be taught, man. They should know this, but I guess people don't know. Again, if you want respect, if you want to people to respect you, you got to present yourself a certain way. So, um, it's unfortunate, some people have certain things like that for an email address or certain image like that. But those be the same people who blame other people for their misfortunes. So it's like it's an accountability issue. You know, I think it is.
it's taking responsibility for yourself issue.
Mm.
Take responsibility for yourself, man. If you like me, I didn't grow up knowing a lot of this stuff. I I can't keep blaming people, or I can't blame people. Period. I grew up. I didn't know, so I'm not gonna do it. No, you are a fucking adult. You are a fucking adult. You cannot be an adult and have children and sit up there and say, "Oh, I didn't grow up like this, so that's why I'm like this." No, how can you say that and then turn around and tell your children they need to grow up? They're looking at you, and then you're an adult male. Even my mother told me I got 2 strikes against me already. I'm a male and I'm black. I'm not gonna let that say, oh, I got 2 strikes, so what's the use? No, no. As men,
It's funny.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's funny that you mentioned that because you get 2 strikes against you for a black male, but you get two advantages as a black woman. You get the fact that you're black and the one that you're a woman. So it's interesting how intersectionality works for black women, but doesn't work for black men. What's going on, Christian?
What's
All
going on?
right. How's everybody doing?
Hey, man, having a guy chat, man.
What's your input on everything we've been discussing, Christian?
Dr. Claude Anderson's already wrote out like a plan for us to organize. I like his plan. And long time ago, 2002, 2004, I'm trying to think of that guy's name. Smiley.
Travis Smiley?
Yeah, Travis Smiley. Tavis, thank you.
Sorry.
He did the I got the book around here somewhere. The Covenant with Black America. I read that. I started doing everything in that book, and then a couple of churches here in my neighborhood started putting the next phase together, and we were making a lot of progress. The only reason we stopped is because some of the higher ups got in the stupid religious debates. Some of the Muslims came in; they were just really dropping knowledge, and they got mad and was like, "We ain't got to listen to them." Kicked them out, and it's like, we're all black. We really need to like stick together. After that, it kind of fell apart. But there's like 2 plans that's already been written out there. We just one got to get organized and get enough people, like-minded people, to start following up on it and executing it.
And what was the name of this book again? Is
The Covenant with Black America.
The Covenant with Black America. Okay.
And then you just get on YouTube and just look up Dr. Claude Anderson.
Yeah, I watched some of his videos. He really gives a thorough breakdown as far as the economic side of things. It's real thorough. Again, I haven't read any of his books yet, but I'm definitely gonna check that out. Definitely, that's gonna be one of my buys.
Dropping in on you brothers right here. Dropping in on the Brain Trust. What's up, y'all?
What's going on, the Brain? How you doing?
All right, man. I'm just coming in over at. I was doing something else there for a minute, but I just kind of wanted to get brought up to speed real quick with you brothers again, man.
Just having a good old gat talk online, excluding all of the messery that normally black men are equated with. We're having a real black man conversation.
What was that? The black man or what?
No, we're just having a real black man conversation.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What's up? What's on the docket? What's the subject matter? Because I know you guys are talking a little bit about the war. This pending World War III, huh?
Yeah. We touched on
that. Real quick, thank you for writing that down, Rodney Holmes. The economic plan and the message to the black man by Elijah Muhammad. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
3 plans.
That's pretty heavy. The message to the black man. You talking about Elijah Muhammad's his overall book. Yeah, I mean, well, he basically really talked about the remaking of the black man. The black man had to be remade. Is that what black men had to be basically remade here in this country to really operate properly, just from the amount of the propaganda, everything else like that that's been played in the end, how it screwed up your mind and how it even screwed up your spirit and your soul in some ways. You had to be recreated. And that's the big premise of where he said you can't even think economically or politically properly the way you've been basically socialized and raised here in this country that is designed to kind of crush your spirit, inherently racist and destructive to your spirit. You had to be remade, in a way where your mind can now be opened up to where you can not only work together, work a business successfully, but really work together successfully. Whereas how things are rolling are rolling with Black America as it is without this infrastructure, you can't do it properly because you guys are not going to be designed to work with each other, or fight each other, and do so on and so forth. So that's where he really came from. I think he made a lot of sense in that book because during his during the NOI as it rose, it was the most powerful and the largest Black business in America. That's what it was. The NOI was the largest, most powerful Black business in America.
They had businesses here in Chicago, restaurants. They had business out here on South Side Chicago, restaurants.
Yeah. I mean, they had opened up restaurants, schools. They had many other smaller busices, small insurance companies, and all the kind of stuff like that. They had a lot of stuff going on. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. They were the largest collective Black business in the United States. That's why when I see a lot of people speak against, the Muslims and so forth, people may have some issues with them, but at the end of the day, they did have a significant footprint, and I know a lot of people didn't really know about that, but the white community watched it very closely because one of the things the white community does is they follow the money, so they look to see where's the money at, and then the Muslims, they were controlling resources.
They were organized.
Yeah, they were organized, building their own schools and educating themselves, and not counting on the system as itself to operate. That's why they had to infiltrate it because they were so nervous about what these guys are doing. They weren't, here was a functioning organization, with a lot of disaffected Black people, now in this organization that's rebuilding, remaking them, and stepping out of the the white paradigm, if you will, and putting forth their own image and developing their own people. That's a threat. As we see, developing our own image today, that's one of the things we talk about a lot is, getting the Black man's image and controlling your image, of which there are many interests out here that don't want you to control that. But certainly, Elijah Muhammad and his cohorts, they understood that quite well, and moved internationally with it.
So why do you think they're going? How were they so successful with doing that, bringing all these brothers together and everybody working it? Like, how do they do it?
Well, they basically had a very, very strong message. They had a strong countervailing message as to what was going on, and you saw how they grew. They really started to come out of the the 20s, really in the 30s. Lot of racism, as we know, a lot of shit just breaking buck wild. And Black people were basically disenfranchised. Certainly after the fall of Reconstruction, Black people were disenfranchised in a big way. They would, we were still back in de facto slavery, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he looked at a nutrient medium, a nutrient ground that could actually be he could plant some real good seeds in, because he saw the Black man was basically kind of out there alone on his own, kind of out there with no one really backing him up, and he saw that it was wide open. He thought there was a wide open shot now to really build this organization. As he came into Islam and understood it, he saw its he looked at its fundamental teachings, and he thought that the Black man could actually do a lot better. To do that. So he really looked at how to build up Black men as opposed to shoot them down. Like you might see a YouTuber out here that'll say, "You Black men, you niggas, or you coons, you monkeys, look at this shine. You see these guys talking like that. That's you're wasting your time doing that. You'll beat a lot of guys down and talk a lot of crazy shit, but you're not going to mobilize a whole lot, millions of men around you behind that. He looking at the black man as somebody who was hurt, told him you were hurt, told him you got beaten down, told him that you were treated unfairly. None of these things he talked about were lies. Showed some people some fundamental truths, showed them a different path of how to, get to success and build a family and be proud of yourself and all the things that, people want to hear, and he provided that, and that's how he built his organization. He delivered on what he said he could promise you, and that's what he did. At the end of the day, a lot of people might want to sit here in this country and look at him and say negative things about him or whatever, but he was a genius. He was brilliant. You'll have your detractors and all that, but this guy was brilliant. He was a brilliant man, and he put together a movement that kind of shook the foundations of this country. Yeah.
Right, and before you got on, we were actually talking about what to organize politically for black people. What will be the agenda? Because black women leverage the Democratic Party as political infrastructure for themselves, and black men are basically sitting on the sidelines looking at the Republican Party and saying, well, those guys don't have our best interests, and you're not going to vote independent, then what are you going to do?
At the end of the day, as I said, I look at, politics from the standpoint, and I believe that that's where, even the black Muslims and all that, they looked at it from the standpoint of, the ethnic political structure will supersede any type of political label. So that's the game we had to play. I saw it quite interesting when I saw Malcolm X linking up very heavily and supporting Adam Clayton Powell, who was the black congressman from Harlem at the time, who became chairman of basically health, education, and kind of welfare, or where 42% of domestic legislation all came through his office. Adam Clayton Powell, who was a Christian, who ran Abyssinian Baptist Church as well in Harlem, but yet had a lot of the key interests out for the black community, helped to build the black community, bring more money and so forth in there. He was one of the most powerful black Congress people we've ever had. He was one of two at the time, but yet the Muslims who were of the Islamic faith, and had more of a, when you really want to talk about, of a very black power type of an image and a focus. Yet they could see a black politician like Adam Clayton Powell as somebody who could be very beneficial for all black folks. They, as a Muslim group, supported him. And here is a pastor of a congressman and a pastor of one of the largest black churches in the country that was in there in Harlem, Abyssinian Baptist. And he, here he was, the pastor of that church, congressman from that district, and the Muslims supported him. They got behind him and had him reelected, and he brought in a lot of money in Harlem, brought a lot of cash into developing housing and so forth. During that period in the '60s, and they got behind him. So that was common interests being dealt with, as opposed to a political party. And many of those the true black conservatives, which the black conservatives here today, they're a joke. A black conservative really is supposed to be somebody who takes very conservative principles to apply it to the black condition and really to help to support and advance black people, the black cause, black education, black business development, and so forth. A black religious perspective, a black integrity, a black power. This is what these guys were about developing, And that's what a conservative movement, black conservative movement, is all about. Not like the ABLs and the rest of these, Negroes running out here who are just, how would I say, pawns of those guys. But you really would be independent and develop your power. We saw that come together in the '60s, certainly with the Muslim and the Christian community that were black, focusing on a common interest over party or over religion or anything else like that. That's real common interest stuff. We saw that. So that's what I expect that we should be seeing if we're going to move past it. We shouldn't be looking at one specific party line. And yes, and those organizations that we're talking about, the church at the time and the Muslims were run by men. All right, they weren't run by women. So men are we're gonna have to get back and start to take the lead, take your country back, if you will.
Right, and I argue that black men need to figure out what the agenda is going to be. Right, there needs to be a 12 to 16 point agenda. We were kind of discussing it before you got on. That we have to focus on our political literacy as well as our digital literacy. You got black men who are basically unwanted labor. Going past age 40, ageism starts to kick in, and you're not really useful to the global economy anymore, or at least the national economy, because now you're competing against foreign labor coming in. Indians on H-1B visas. You see what's happening with that caravan on the border. You become, as a black man, you become very useless to the economy. You're not really bringing any skill set to the table. You don't really have the programming skills that most IT firms need or most IT operations need, and you also are not financially literate either. So you don't have any idea what Bitcoin is or what
blockchain
any of the cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important part of that is we're going to have to retrain. When I look at the German economy, how do the Germans, how do they consistently keep their economy moving? How do they keep their people working and so forth well up into retirement age? What do? They're constantly retraining people. So it's really on us to develop programs, okay? Continuing education programs where you're going to have to get retrained. You're going to have to now get retrained for the new jobs that you're going to have to get into. If you're not with the programming skills, you're going to have to get in some skill set that's going to retrain you to fit you back into what's going on into today's economy. So if you're 40 years old and now all of a sudden it's like, well, he's 40 and he doesn't have the skills. Well, now you're going to have to go to a certain training class for a certain period of time, for a certain period of months and so forth, retrain, acquire those skills, and then get into these jobs to where you're certainly going to be useful. To get into either the IT or the medical field. Medical billing and coding and these kind of things are huge. That's very big right now. You've got large surpluses of jobs in many areas right now that people say, well, there are no jobs. Get the fuck out of here. IT, you've got 1 million jobs right now in the country or somewhere there's about that are unstaffed, that we have.
Yeah, lowest unemployment rate.
You know what I'm saying? And we have a very low unemployment rate. So you still have, a lot of jobs out here. So it's retraining. It's continuing education. That's the key to really turn this thing around. We know what the answers are. It's not being done. All right. So if you are a black man and you now are finding yourself, out of the market because you don't have a certain skill set, now it's time to acquire that skill set. If you have to learn some Java, if you have to learn some this, some that, these are not that difficult to really learn once you sit down and train at it. You can pick a lot of this stuff up. It's not that difficult, especially if you're literate. If you're illiterate, which we see with some aspects of the community, you're dealing with a slightly different issue. But as far as you retraining yourself as a literate person to move into another sector of the economy, it's going to take retraining. So we need retraining programs. And there's actually government money out there and that's kind of stuff like that for that actually, to be quite frank with you, to happen. Obama and these guys set a lot of that up. So that actually does exist. The name of the game is, can you get into these programs? Do you know where they are? Get the information in which to go about and to do it. and that's the key here. A lot of these programs are subsidized, so it's retraining these people to get into these areas where the jobs are. Retraining. Germany does it beautifully. They do it very well.
Well, I'd argue again that do you put the resources into your 40 plus club, or do you put it into your Generation Z? The age 6 to 18 who are coming of age and they're going to have a long road ahead of them.
Well, you certainly put a lot of those resources into Generation Z because they're going to be a very large number of people coming up. Maybe not as large as the of the millennial generation, but they certainly are going to be a large, a fairly large number. You're going to have a large number of people who are coming into retirement age. So you have a lot of people who are going to be going out. I'm talking about the baby boomers, but you have the Gen Xers who are now, in their, very, very, very late 30s, 40s who are going into that. They're going to be the ones who are going to have to retrain. They're not as a large number as the millennials and the Z is coming up. So certainly more resources will be placed there, but you're going to have to place some resources towards that older generation as well. So there's going to be a split, but I would look at that split more like 70-30, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
Out of 100%, so 70%, of course, to the younger and 30, to the older guys. The baby boomers are now starting to hit retirement age. All right. So that's not, it's not so much you're going to have to seriously super retrain for a lot of them, a lot of us, but you're going to have to retrain certainly that 35 to say 50-year-old crowd is going to have to start to really retrain themselves.
So let me ask you a question. How did Germany do it successfully? Like, what did they do different?
Well, what Germany does is they got, they understand exactly what, they have a very strong view on their economy. They know exactly where the jobs are, machines and building, cars and tool manufacture and all these kind of things. And certainly, CAD design and all that kind of stuff. You guys know all the technical stuff, IT, they have all of, they know exactly where the sectors are. What Germany does is they have what's called continuing education, which is actually sponsored and subsidized by the government. And what do? The government gets involved in putting money into these educational programs that are subsidized, so people can come there for very low cost to come in and get an education, to retrain themselves, to move into a new sector. So these people then get trained. And so these people then get trained in those areas. So they come up, they get moved from one job, say, well, you're being moved out of this job here, you're being retired out of this. All right. But this is a new sector that's going to be opening up, and you could potentially be a worker here if you get XYZ skills underneath your belt in the next, say, 6 months. We have this school here for you to go to the government, get your paperwork, get all the stuff done, qualify for that, go to that school, train for 6 months, come out, get this certification, boom, you'll be certified to work into this area now. Now, all of a sudden, you've gone from one area, let's say, where you might have been working, say, doing one area. Now you're going to go into medical billing and coding or something else like that. You're going to be trained for that, and you're going to go in there. So there's a lot of, so there are different ways to move. They also have a very strong union movement in that country. So where everything is pretty much unionized. So once you get certified and so forth, if you're going to work, let's say if you're even going to be a worker for Walmart or whatever, you have to join a union to get up in there, and so they guarantee that you have a job. Not only you have a job, but you're going to get a certain level of pay, you're going to get a certain level of benefits. You're not going to get fucking screwed over where you're going to be working part-time, no medical care, they're not dealing with that. They're not dealing with that level of fuckery. They're going to make sure, that everyone pretty much gets covered, because they know if you don't have good medical coverage and so forth, that's ultimately going to be a drain on the state with respect to its rising medical care costs and everything else like that. That's going to really fuck the budget and do a lot of problems. So they underwrite all that to make sure you don't have those issues through their union movements and so forth, through their union organizations. So they have a well feeding farm system set up to deal with this. Very, 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 very well organized and fairly well precise. The Germans don't fucking take a leak without a fucking, without a good plan, or a good strategy for how to do it. So that's where they're at. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Well, that sounds like socialism. I thought that was a bad thing.
Well, they're only the fucking morons up in here talking that dumbass shit. These dumb motherfuckers. You got to understand that, a large part of, what you talk about socialist movement, that is actually, I hate to say it, but for lack of a better word, it kind of helps and facilitates capitalism. That's what you have to do. You can't have a total capitalist market because it means there's going to be a big loser at the bottom. Just read Lester Thoreau. Zero Sum Society will explain that to you. But you have to, or you have to have a system set up where it's a hybridized system. The Germans, what are they doing? They're covering most of Europe because they're very effective in what they do. A lot of people don't understand a lot of the, let's say, you think all your cell phone parts are made, in China. That's not true. When you pick up your phone and every time, you turn it to the side or something else like that, and that picture or image you may have turns along with how you turn it, there is a certain, microchip that helps to provide that feature. And those are designed in Germany. They designed them. They designed those so a lot of that. That's what's going into your iPhone or your Android or whatever. So they make a lot of that. They make those kind of parts. They're designing a lot of shit. Okay, and they're very profitable. But in order to keep their system running without collapsing or bringing these kind of collapses, they have a social construct that's an undergirding to keep that system moving. It's the grease of the system. It's the oil of that. That actually is the oil of the capitalistic system that they have there. That's how socialism operates. You have to understand how both work. You have a lot of ignorant people who don't understand this. They talk in terms of titles or in terms of labels, but they're too fucking stupid to sit down and really understand what they're looking at. Either they're too ignorant because they haven't read it, or they're just some dumb motherfuckers and just are going to listen to others without really studying what this is really all about. And they make dumbass fucking statements, and then you put yourself against the wall, and that's a big problem we have here. We have immense ignorance here, and we have people running this game down to where you see what's going to happen. This shit's going to collapse shortly, and we're going to be in a very large socialist system here as well, very socialist. After this next crash comes down, I hate to break it down because we're going to need some huge bailouts, and the rich are going to have to take a tremendous haircut. They're going to have to kick out all this money they're stealing and taking. And let's put it like this: what did we just do? Gave these guys $1 trillion deficit. Wrote that up. The Republicans supposed to be your spendthrifts, but yet here they are. Giving you $1 trillion for write-offs for the super rich and all. I mean, it's just look where we're heading, man. This shit is shit is ill. But anyway, go ahead.
No, I was just I'm actually agreeing with you that there needs to be a safety net system, at least in terms of black men, because my concern is black people, at least on this platform, right? And I just find it interesting that you got people talking about getting black men with their credit repair and things like that, not taking into consideration who put them in that situation in the first place in terms of context. You had people's mothers using their social security numbers and exploiting their credit, and then when they become adults, they have to repair their credit. But people are just saying, black men just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Well, I argue that our boots have been taken from us.
Yeah, I mean, there's an immense amount of fuckery going on, and this black female, in so many ways, we don't want to put a lot on her, but unfortunately, she has fucked a lot of black men up. She's fucked a lot of us up, and so we need a lot of mama repair up in this motherfucker, because these motherfuckers have been horrible. But what I actually think when we start to look at business from a black a black business perspective or a black economic perspective, I think one of the biggest ways that we can really expand our game in a lot of ways is also through cooperative business, where we own companies, workers come in also and become owners in the company as well and have a vested interest in it, and run business and run business co-ops that way. I think that's a big. I think that could be a huge answer, a big solution for our issues of wealth and wealth distribution in the black community. I think is it socialist in its construct? In some ways, we can say so, yeah. But at the end of the day, does it does a rising tide rise all ships underneath this kind of situation? Absolutely, it can. And I think that's an answer that we have to really look at instead of just being, this one independent superstar, which is, which is difficult.
Right. And
no, go ahead.
Right. And I agree with you on the co-ops, because that's something that I do offline as well, helping develop something like that. But I'm also thinking about public banking. Black people need their own public bank.
Yep.
You got 40+ million black people.
Yep.
Who are putting their money into banks that don't have their best interests.
Yep.
Where you can actually put it into a digital. We can create an actual digital bank using cryptocurrencies that can actually harness our wealth and put it into one central location that can actually be paired against a strong crypto such as Bitcoin, such as Ethereum and things of those nature, and actually get transactions done in less than 5 seconds instead of waiting 3 days for a check or a week or whatever it is. You're getting instant money into a digital wallet, which is your smartphone. We have an opportunity right now to actually take advantage of leveraging digital infrastructure as it stands.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with that. And you own it, you own that bank as well, so it's definitely going to have its interests out for you. I mean, the State Bank of North Dakota is a publicly owned bank, and it's been that way for well over 100 years. It's never closed, never had a shutdown, never had a run on or anything else like that. People of that state own that bank. And the Democrats, Republicans, or anyone else, no one will touch it. No one will even speak about it. Socialism. The people of that state own that bank. And what do? They help people fund their farms, help people fund their businesses, help people, buy homes. They help people do everything else. This is people-owned bank. They have very little default rates because the people are involved in it. And you're looking at a very successful bank because people are not getting... people who, number one, can't qualify are not, they're just not going to give it to anybody. And those who do qualify know that they qualify, and then they're supported by their community. Their business is supported by their community. So what does that bank do? That bank, in fact, plays a key role as being a key player in helping to build it, helping to keep its community strong. It's the people on it. And you don't hear one party, not one, talk about going to that bank and shutting it down or bringing it under control of Wells Fargo or some other fucking rapacious fucking institution that would UBS or God forbid any one of these European banks that are fucked in the ass like HSBC, something else like that that'll come rolling through there. Doesn't happen. It's been that way for well over 100 years. Nobody speaks about it. Most people here probably never even knew that, but that's exactly what it is. One of the most successful banks in this country. Publicly owned bank. Why is nobody talking about it? Why?
Right. And I think this is a perfect segue for us to actually maybe bring up a suggestion, not even a suggestion, but an announcement that we will be having an African summit, an African business summit on this channel in the coming quarter. So be on the lookout for that in your email. If you are subscribed to us, hit that notification bell. You will see some summits come up in the next month or so. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us. We will be back on Friday with economics, episode 85. And until then, Thank you and have a good night.
All right. Wish I was here earlier.